almost to the owners' meetings, which means this is where big
we
rule
break
change.
ground in our. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that might be happening too. Big rule changes get voted on at the owners' meetings every year. And the competition. So last week, you may have seen on Twitter, I think it was discussed a little bit here on the show the day I wasn't here, was some of the rule proposals that teams submitted. So there's teams submit rule ideas. The competition committee then gets together and they say, all right, we're taking your submissions. Here's what we think too. And they put out what actually is going to be discussed by the owners, by coaches, by the committee next week. And then they'll end up voting on it. This is where it happened with the kickoff rule last year. So I'm going to go through some of these. I think there's some interesting ones we need to discuss. Everything from the kickoff rule again to playoff changes potentially that are super interesting, especially considering the division that the Bears play in. We'll start with this, though. If you remember the kickoff rule last year, the dynamic kickoff rule it was technically a 1-year trial. It was not permanently put into the rule book. Now, it almost certainly will now. They're going to most likely make it permanent. There are a couple changes, though, that have been proposed. One is, which I thought was funny last year, even in Orlando, when they put the new rule in, to basically get it passed, they had to make a small concession that instead of the touchback being at the 35, they're going to make it the 30. And they even said at the time, they're like, this will probably move to the 35 next year. And that's exactly what happened because as you saw, despite the new kickoff rule, there were still plenty of touchbacks.
Yep.
So to penalize touchbacks and to promote the ball being put in play more by kickers, they're going to put the touchback to the 35. Now the initial thought is, oh, well, then why would the returners ever take the ball in the end zone? But that's not the point. The point is to encourage the kicking team to put the ball in play and to stop kicking it out of the end zone.
Right.
So it's a tough balance. They always kind of counteract, but I think this is a good thing. So you are going to be pretty penalized to just kick the ball through the end zone. Your opponent's going to get the ball at the 35.
I'm all for it. All for it. You know, the league, everybody likes scoring, right? So if you're going to, enhance the kickoff opportunity, bring that back into the game here in Chicago, we know the importance of that, that aspect of the game. And then if they do put it back in the end zone, now you're in field goal position pretty quickly, after one or two completions, now all of a sudden you're in scoring range. So I think this is only going to up scoring, up excitement, up explosive plays, potentially on kickoff. And so, I'm all for this one.
My only hesitation right now is that I feel like every time that the ball was in play, and obviously this is due to teams getting used to this rule, is it felt like there was a flag anytime that the ball was taken out. And I want to avoid more flags.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's kind of on the players and the coaches to, learn the new techniques and learn how to, play properly without getting flags. But, I get it. The other small change that we're probably going to see is allowing the kicking team to declare an onside kick, at any time during the game. Last year, you had to be trailing in the fourth quarter. The rule most likely that they're going to vote on is allowing you to kick an onside kick anytime, but you have to be trailing. You still have to declare it because of the new rule. You can't do onsides, it's just the way you line up. But theoretically, like in the Super Bowl, that actually came up. They were trailing by so much, they probably would have liked to have done an onside kick earlier, but they legally could not have.
What did they score with, like 34 seconds left in the third quarter, but they couldn't onside it?
Yeah, so that's
ridiculous.
To me, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I remember Braggs was banging the drum for that.
I don't understand why, if you're declared, hell, do it on the opening kickoff of the game. Like, who cares when it is?
Yeah.
Although that wouldn't be possible either because you still have to be trailing.
I think second half beyond, you should be allowed to declare I'm going for an onside kick here.
Yeah.
I don't even like that you can't do a surprise onside kick anymore.
I know. Almost never happened, though. Happened in one Super Bowl.
And now Braggs misses it.
Yeah. Yeah. The element of surprise.
Yep.
I don't want predictability.
It literally was run like once every 3 years.
Let's start declaring. Okay, this is going to be
I
a
would say
pass.
longer.
This is going to be a passing play now, everyone. Let's
Not
be
the same
safe.
thing, even remotely the same thing.
You can still do that little thing where you pretend like you're kicking
All right,
it to the
everyone,
left.
we're
and
going to
kick it
run
the
left
right.
here.
All right, some other rules. The Eagles have proposed that the postseason and regular season overtime rules are going to be aligned in that both teams will possess the ball regardless of the outcome of the first possession. Both teams are guaranteed a possession in overtime, and it would go back to a 15-minute overtime period instead of 10 like it is in the regular season.
So Josh Allen could have theoretically maybe won a Super Bowl if this rule had been changed a few years ago.
Well, that's why that's why they already had changed it for the postseason.
Right.
But in the regular season, technically, overtime's only 10 minutes, and if you go down and score right away a touchdown, the game's over.
Right.
So now they're saying you could score a touchdown, but the other team's still going to get the ball, and then they're going to add 5. I'm not sure if the adding the 5 minutes is necessary, but theoretically, you could do like a 9-minute possession and score a touchdown. The other team's kind of screwed. I would say, well, why didn't you get a stop? But again, this goes back to the coin toss. I think the coin toss is stupid. Just give the home team the pick.
I liked the XFL way of figuring out who gets the ball.
Yeah, because that was safe.
The scrum and run. Everybody be safe.
I think they should have two fans come out of the stands and fight for the ball.
That's another really good idea. We have the equipment managers for each team battle it out. I got my money on Medlin.
This next one's interesting. The next one's interesting.
Scrappy.
Expanding, and I love this, expanding instant replay's ability to advise on-field officials on specific objective aspects of a play. Steven, this is where that graphic can come up. So what does this mean? So if you've been paying attention, replay assist has been very successful to the point that you almost don't notice it when it happens in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just adding more replay assist. So if there
Can we get this for college basketball, please?
Yeah,
For the love of God.
It happens so fast. It's just, oh yeah, something that obvious we can see on TV. Let's just get in the official's ear, change it, bam, move on to the next play. It's great. So they're going to expand this because it's been so successful. So if they call a defensive player and then we all see a replay and realize, oh, the head or neck didn't actually get contacted, and they can see that clearly, just pick up the flag. Face mask. They call face mask. Oh, there's not really face mask? Call it. Now, what's a little confusing about that, I'll let to get clarification, is what if you see a face mask?
That's what I was just about to ask.
I think this is only picking, you can only pick up a flag if clear and obvious video evidence exists. Horse collar. It wasn't really a horse collar.
Right.
Okay.
Just actually pulling the shoulder.
Right.
Or the hair.
And that happens a few times every season. You're like, that wasn't really a horse collar. Okay, pick up the flag. Tripping. No leg foot contact to opponent. They call tripping and they realize, oh, that really wasn't tripping. Or sometimes a guy like kind of gets pushed into him, whatever. Pick up the flag. And then I like this last one too. If roughing or running into the kicker happens, but then they realize that guy actually tipped the ball and it's that obvious. It's kind of like picking up pass interference if the ball's tipped. So those are just expanding replay. I like that.
I have a couple thoughts on that. And one is that based on how horse collar has been called in the last few years, I don't even know what it is anymore. I don't know what constitutes a horse collar at this point, because half the time it does look like they're pulling at the shoulder pad. But if depending on how a player falls, it's going to warrant the flag. Secondly, this is kind of inching towards the idea of you have a group of people in a bar, you have a group of people in a Hooters, and they're watching a game, and you go to them for the decision on if that's a flag or not. Because replay assist, they should just have replay assist at a Hooters and just telling you, yes, that looks like a flag. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a face mask. No, that's not a face mask because it wasn't called, or because it was called in real time. But clearly, this player jerked his head, so then it forced that call. I like this. I also think that now we're on that path to, can replay assist add flags to plays? And I know that you just brought that up, but I feel like this is getting the ball rolling on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know if I'm all the way there on that idea, but when something is clearly wrongly called, which is different than missing a call. Like things are going to be missed. They're humans. They're going to see everything. But when you think you see something and you actually didn't, and the replay shows that, like, oh no, that wasn't what you thought you saw, correct it.
Yes.
That's different to me than actually just not seeing a call. It would be great, but at some point we're going to be over legislating everything here if we're just going to have like robots calling the game.
Yes.
But does this then open the door for, because this happens in college basketball sometimes, maybe the NFL too, where the play can only be reviewed if there is a call. And so now there's going to be, it's going to encourage more calls to be made because then then you're reviewing.
But I do think this is different in that, like, okay, the flag was thrown and it's a wrong flag. Just pick it up and move on to the next play. We don't need a 5-minute review.
Because it's both ways, right? Like there's times where we say, just let the play finish out, then review it. Because if you throw the flag, then we can't run the play, right? There's moments in games where we're like,
well, if you're talking about like a false start or something, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then now this other way where I'm saying it's like, well, now they're just going to start throwing more flags because now they know they can review it quickly.
Look at what baseball did in spring training this year and what they've been doing in the minor leagues. It's the helmet tap for challenging a pitch. Was that a ball or a strike? That's always been a judgment call. We're looking, face mask isn't necessarily a judgment call, but based on how refs are seeing the game, that's kind of what we're looking at.
Well, in the rules, they're saying this is only for objective calls, not subject. So we'll see how it plays out. A couple more, and this is also has to do with the penalty. And I actually do have a strong take on this. So Detroit is proposing that they eliminate an automatic first down as a penalty imposed for defensive holding and illegal contact. So right now, defensive holding and illegal contact is different from pass interference. And it is a 5-yard penalty, but automatic first down. And they're proposing that they take that away. I don't want to see this passed because I think it's just going to lead to a lot more mugging of
I agree.
Of receivers and almost intentionally sometimes.
Right.
Like what if it's
end of game
if you know you're lined up and it's there mismatches all over the place, just take the 5-yard penalty.
3rd and 15.
Exactly.
Well, okay, the worst case scenario is I just mug the number 1 wide receiver, screw up their whole play, and they're just going to have the 3rd and 10. Yeah, exactly to your point. I know
3rd and 20, you could do that 3 times if you're getting
still have
beat.
a 3rd and 5.
Right.
So and that's just going to extend the game. I do not like this, and I think it'll get shut down.
Don't expect people from Detroit to use their heads.
That'd be a first.
Yeah.
That's why they lost Ben Johnson, who's the last smart person to be in that city.
And then the Packers are, they're weak and they want the tush push banned.
Stop the tush push.
I'm all for it. No one agrees with me. I'm all for it. Stop the tush, but ban the tush push.
Yeah, the guy with no
Tired
knees
of it.
bans the tush push.
Yeah, the guy with no knees, ban the tush push.
My take on this is that I just want it consistent. Because right now, you can't push defensive players.
Bingo.
Forward. So it's got to be the same on both sides.
Bingo.
Make it one way or the other.
Which means the same reason they banned it for defensive players, then you're going to ban it for offense. Tired of it.
Greg was also personally victimized by the Bush. So
that's true. I was. Before the tush push, there was once the Bush push.
That's right. Last thing I'm going to bring up here is because there's a bunch of random things in here. But
Kevin's always got the quotes from me. He's paying attention. Kevin Fishbane's in the chat.
Oh, good.
I don't know if good.
I'm all for it.
Good.
The Greg Bragg story. Detroit is also saying that they should amend the current playoff seeding format to allow wildcard teams to be seeded higher than division champions. Your thoughts?
Pat?
So that's just the NBA, right? That's just the structure of
the
NBA.
It would take away division, the importance of
division.
If
you win your division, you still get in the playoffs.
Sure.
But you wouldn't get home.
So you still got the occasional 7 or I guess 8 and 9 Saints team that makes the playoffs. but they would have to be on the road, which I like.
So in other words, the Vikings would have had a home game instead of a road game after losing that Week 18 game to the Lions last year.
I feel like that's kind of where all sports are headed at this point. Like baseball will eventually do that too. When you have the Diamondbacks winning 100 games behind the Dodgers winning 115.
I don't think it's a big enough problem that it needs to be changed, but I get the thinking behind it.
Yeah.
And it would have at least slightly minimized the impact of that awesome Lions-Vikings matchup in Week 18. Now, the winner still would have gotten a bye, which is important, but that really was a playoff game for those teams. Certainly was for the Vikings. And so I like the fact that winning the division matters so much in those moments.
I agree.
So I get why we're having this discussion. I get why Detroit. I find it interesting. Detroit's actually the one proposing this and not the Vikings. But it would have hurt. Certainly, if the Lions had lost that game, they would have been in the same position. They would have fallen down. They would have had to go on the road. It was huge. It was a huge game. But I like that it was a huge game.
Sure,
I agree.
And
so I don't want to take that away.
So who's like specific teams, not just like teams that are going to win their division but aren't going to have a strong year. Who's against this rule change? That's like it's just teams from the NFC South to me.
Right.
Because
and this I will be paying very close attention to this in Florida next week because this could impact the Bears because they're definitely going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
But willing to win the division.
No, I want to keep divisional games important. So I'm not. I get it. Teams get screwed that have obviously last year the Vikings. But you know what? Detroit just needs to stop crying.
It's a funny comment from Rogue Agent 88. The Lions make the playoffs twice in 50 years. They want to start changing things.
Exactly. They're crying. They fell short of their goals, and now they lost their whole coaching staff, and all they've done since then is cry. Their fan base, their team, their city. Just shut up, Detroit, and play football. Finally good.
Yeah. All right. There's some smaller rule changes in here. We'll continue to discuss these. I'll be reporting from Florida next week, and we'll see where this all goes.
We all silly like the mayor.